When the pandemic hit, most of us became a lot more aware of germs. Just going to the store meant masking up, wiping down carts, paying by card.
And now Colorado wants stores to get back to the habit of accepting cash payments. Denver 7's CB Cotton tonight takes a 360 look at cash versus card, asking what's best for businesses and customers.
Every time the cash drawer opens and closes, people's wallets do the same. But today, more customers are reaching for cards instead of cash, a trend boosted by the COVID-19 pandemic and given the potential of spreading the virus, which convinced many businesses to accept electronic payments only. But the practice won't be continuing. And we're going 360 with multiple perspectives impacted by the new Colorado law that protects cash spending. From those doing the spending to the businesses doing the selling. And we'll talk to a business expert. We'll also speak with the Colorado lawmaker whose bill was signed into law this week.
Typically, I don't carry any cash. Usually you just pay through credit card. I like credit cards because, I can get travel points. But I hardly ever use cash. I don't really see any solid arguments for holding cash. It's a liability. It's something that loses value over time. Can get stolen.
Joe Fessler prefers paying by card too, but is glad that businesses will now have to prioritize cash.
And it's important to continue to allow stores to take cash transactions.
Transactions that at one point were a huge concern for these three business leaders. All of their stores went cashless during the pandemic over fears of spreading COVID. Now they're accepting coins and dollars again and recognize the pros and cons of working with both.
All right.
Mad Greens, a Colorado staple since 2004, went cashless from April 2020 to the end of March this year.
Nobody knew how COVID was transferred and whether money was a big issue, cash particularly, surfaces and whether surfaces were an issue or not. So we decided for safety reasons we weren't going to take cash. And to see how that worked.
Turns out accepting only electronic payments for nearly a year led to more in-house efficiency as employees implemented new COVID-19 safety protocols.
The manager doesn't have to leave the building to go to the bank. We're not spending, could be up to 2 hours a day managing cash in and out of the safe, in and out of the drawers, counting, changing cashiers.
Now that they're back to using cash, the responsibilities that come with it have returned, but employees say they feel more adjusted.
Counting in all of our drawers, counting them out at the end of each shift.
And we'll continue to accept cash into the future.
Up in Arvada, New Image Brewing rolled back its cashless policy even sooner.
We actually started accepting cash again probably back in September after the CDC had really been like, hey, this isn't transmittable through surfaces.
New Image says while they're accepting cash again, they're glad some of their new technology is now a permanent fixture for the future.
We can insert our card here, or if you have the tap option on your card, you can just tap the top of this unit and it'll finish through the point of sales.
Over at Illegal Pete's, a quick service burrito shop with 12 locations, the cashless policy was just rolled back this month.
We're just seeing that the feedback we're getting from our employees and our customers alike, it just feels as if it's the appropriate time to kind of reintroduce cash back into our market.
But throughout their no cash policy, Illegal Pete's operated under another rule for those who didn't have a debit or credit card.
We've implemented a policy where if somebody comes in and wants to pay with cash and doesn't have it, we always buy their meal.
But that's a generous gesture that not every business can afford to extend. And that's where this Colorado lawmaker comes in.
But I heard from a constituent who was having trouble buying kind of the basics, eggs, milk, things that you need to survive at the local store, and ended up having to walk a great deal a distance further to go to a store that did accept cash.
Colorado Democratic Representative Alex Valdez co-sponsored the bill that will now require businesses to accept cash payments. Similar legislation was passed in New Jersey back in 2019.
This bill really came from hearing from constituents about problems they were having spending cash at their local merchants. So everything from groceries to coffee. When the pandemic started, it really exacerbated a problem that was already happening where folks were having trouble accessing kind of their staples in life.
And exceptions will be made for some establishments.
Rental cars and hotels where there's a security deposit involved. We made sure that we created some language in there to ensure that those companies weren't left exposed from a security deposit perspective.
After a quick pass through the House and Senate, the bill was signed by Governor Jared Polis on Monday.
That's really what this bill is about, is ensuring that everybody in Colorado has access to the basics. And when you talk about folks that are unbankable, it's a larger population than we think. Some say 15% of the state of Colorado is in an unbankable state.
DU business professor Matt Klaus says the number of people who don't have a bank or the unbanked has remained steady.
You're always going to have part of the population that just doesn't want to use the credit cards, debit cards, or do to an online method.
He says a person's finances, access to technology, or privacy concerns are just some of the reasons why some don't want to use banking. But this has never kept the cashless movement from gaining momentum.
For many firms, cash is a problem. It's difficult to handle. You have to have a cash drawer each day. At the end of the day, you have to do something with that cash to get it deposited somewhere. You've always got the threat of theft with cash.
According to studies done by the Federal Reserve, 30% of customers were paying with cash back in 2017. 2 years later, that dropped to just 26%, while card payments have steadily increased. But Klaus insists cash is still critical.
Leave out the consumers that just don't have that capability.
But if businesses do prefer that their consumers pay by card, Klaus says one solution is for businesses to incentivize their preferred method of payment.
You have to pay more if you want to use cash, but at least you can use cash, and you get better deal if you're willing to have the capability to use a credit card or a debit card or something, or pay online.
However you feel on the money matters, Colorado businesses are now legally obligated to keep their cash drawers open and ready. In Denver, I'm CB Cotton, Denver 7.
All right, what do you think? Is cash still king, or do you think we should all convert to card payments? Email us at 360@thedenverchannel.com.